also very clearly we want to make it that the ANC is opposed to any drug or substance abuse which is harmful to our bodies. We also note, and I think we can talk about the recent judgments in courts where the ANC respects the smoking and allows for cannabis in homes. We're also going to hear very eloquently what the ANC wants to do about the cannabis and its master plan. I think there's many concerns and fears that we don't want cannabis industrialization to be only benefiting a few and not all of us, our people of South Africa. So the master plan, we will want to talk through that. We also want to hear where we are with the bill. So I think that's going to be a crucial debate. So I think the clear thing for us as the ANC, we want to lead on this, but we also want to hear the different views that we have. So that's why we have this debate. We're part of society as the leader of society. We want to hear, we want to engage, we want to listen, and more importantly, we want to implement. And so we are here as both members of society, public representative, to understand the issues, but more importantly, to see how our people can benefit commercially, but also decriminalize it and deal with the stigmas, but also ensure that we create safe and healthy communities. So that's in short, and a short introduction from my side. I look forward to a good debate with all the experts here. Clearly, I'm not the expert. So we'll take it from there. Thanks, Aisha.
Thank you, and I'm looking forward to unpacking the master plan with Oma. Vince, are you ready to talk to us about your input? Are you ready to give us your input?
I'm always ready.
Aisha, Sister Mimi's in the room. Sister Mimi's in the room, Aisha, and Elder Prince. I think the Elder is the keynote speaker, so Mimi and then me, and then the ancients.
Ras, we're live already?
I'm with the protocol. I was made to understand that I'm speaking after Comrade Wilma and Sister Mimi and Ras Hein.
Okay. Okay. Look, I think this is going to get very intense tonight. So I'm going to take a breather, just hear everybody's input, and then we're going to see what happens with the questions. Because the room is filling up quite fast. And I'm already seeing quite a few viewers on the Facebook. So whoever's ready to speak first, I'm also okay with that. Hello?
Okay. Aisha, ask Sister Mimi, because Sister Mimi said she's logging in. Please ask Sister Mimi to engage with the flow, and then we move from there.
Okay, no problem. We are live already, Sister Mimi. So I apologize for your lateness on behalf of you.
Okay, while Comrade Mimi is setting up, I think for me, I can just continue with some of the points that I want to make.
Yeah, let's have a discussion about that.
Let's just move on this. I mean, cannabis is used in the textile industry, clothing, biodegradable plastics, biofuel, food, even in the construction industry.
Yeah.
So I'm sure this master plan is going to be a crucial key thing. There's a lot of things happening in cannabis globally, and it is a big economic spin-off. So I think what we want to do, we want to ensure that we make it commercially viable. We can get foreign direct investment, but I think one thing is very clear, and for me, speaking as a small business advocate, is that our people must benefit from this. And we hope that the master plan will speak to that, economically empowered of the previously disadvantaged. I think we're also at the stage where the legislation is about to change.
Yeah.
And the Constitutional Court made that provision. The deadlines are behind the time. But I think there's a lot of best practice that we are picking up. And so I'm keen to hear from the experts, the Development Council. Comrade Mimi, are you ready for us?
I think my biggest concern is also
greetings, everyone. I called Sister Mimi just now. Sister Mimi said she's having load shedding on that side. She's in the Free State. She's having load shedding.
We're actually live. So
So I want to
Not
apologize.
with us now.
So I want to come
Comrade,
in, leadership.
okay, do you want to talk?
Yeah, I will just give some
Go for it.
input
Please go
while
for
we
it.
wait. Yeah, Sister Mimi said she's having some problems. She's busy logging in with connection. So I apologize for her, but she's on standby and she's getting into the room and she will contribute.
Can you talk, please,
Leadership.
comrade?
Okay, leadership. My input as a young agricultural someone that is concerned around about the economy and someone that's concerned about the capture of the cannabis industry by monopoly capital and by global finance that is not really about developing our society and our communities, but wants to just extract the value from our fiscal economy, and then our cannabis economy is not going to benefit the poorest of the poor. And in reference to that, I want to mention that the Rastafari community and movement since apartheid has been at the forefront of the struggle, and we have contributed immensely to the liberation of the society. And also in terms of ganja, my elder Prince, we are fortunate to have him here. He was at the forefront of decriminalizing cannabis since the early 2000s because he maintained it's his sacramental and faith-based right as a devotee and adherent of the Rastafari faith. And therefore, he waged the struggle for the past almost 20 years. In 2017, through his consistent efforts to decriminalize cannabis, was able to ensure that the Constitutional Court gives the Parliament 2 years. Those 2 years has passed. So we need to reflect critically. We need to reflect critically now in this session with our MP and with the committee here. We need to lobby for a clear program of action to liberate cannabis to the benefit of the people, to ensure that infant industries are protected in terms of rates and tariffs on industry and imports and exports. So I want the MP to take into cognizance, and also the committee to take into cognizance my voice, because I speak for the grassroots. I was also given instructions and I was given certain sentiments by the community at large through our communication channels, which is Adwa Movement, Voice of the Western Province, Rastafari United Front. These are all formations. Even the Cannabis Council, which is led by Rastafari adherents. All these formations we've consulted. We have our ways of communicating with each other so that we can come as a collective voice to this engagement. 2 days ago, the Black Farmers Association in Pretoria marched towards SAPRA for the same around the same issue about how small-scale farmers are not being uplifted. The government isn't approaching them to formalize them and to ensure that they can become sustainable and become subsidiaries for corporations and subsidiaries for whoever wants to export our cannabis. I think I've given a clear understanding. Leaders, our elders have been murdered by police. Our elders are still in jail. Our elders have been jailed. We have criminal records because of cannabis, and it unfortunately messes up opportunities for us when corporations and people look at our criminal records and see that we have petty offenses for cannabis, but it's labeled as drugs or narcotics according to South Africa's laws. So even these people, when they look at our criminal records, they think we were mules for drugs. Meanwhile, we have been sacramentally using cannabis. So there's an issue around reparations, cannabis reparations. And America, there is models in Washington whereby previously convicted criminals or previously convicted on cannabis issues are now basically given opportunities by the corporates and those that are given subsidies and income or economic zones, or by government in America. So that we have in Jamaica, cannabis is given sacramental rights to the Rastafari adherents. So in Jamaica, it's a sacramental right for Rastafari devotees to have ganja. It's not about recreation, it's sacramental. So we need this government and we need this MP and we need this committee to understand the sacramental nature of cannabis for Rastafari. And I trust my elders will expand upon that. I hope I was clear and I hope I did the voice justice and I hope I did my community justice and I hope I did my leadership justice. Thank you very much.
Your constituency very well.
I'm just curious.
Thank you. I think I'm done and then the leadership.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay. I haven't seen Mimi enter yet. So if Prince doesn't mind, please, would you please give your input on everything that our youth has just spoke about? And maybe even just adding to anything else that you want to.
Thank you very much. And best greeting to all of the viewers and the listeners. You know, it's we need to speak truth to power. And at this stage, the ANC is the government of our country. And fact of the matter is that the ANC have resisted the freedom of cannabis for the past 27 years. It took the Constitutional Court to tell the government of the day that you need to change the laws. Now, ours is a constitutional democracy. It is a participatory democracy. And government needs to talk to its people, and it needs to show that they are respecting the fundamental human rights. And the four corner principles of our constitutional democracy is equality, dignity, freedom, and social justice. And all of those cornerstone principles are threatened by the fact that cannabis is still regulated, or that the ANC still proposed to regulate cannabis via the criminal justice system. It is an insult to the dignity of South Africans and the cannabis community to speak about the commercialization of cannabis before the freedom issue is solved, because we cannot have a viable commercial activity around cannabis if the members of the cannabis community are still sent to prison, if government still supports the police locking up South African citizens. So instead of cannabis putting South Africans to work, it would seem that the ANC still proposed to send South Africans to jail because of them associating with cannabis. We fought for the freedom and for the emancipation of South Africans, the First Nation people of this country, who have had an association with cannabis for the past 1,000 years. It is part of our culture. It is part of our own story, our history. And the government of the day needs to respect that. Our disappointment lies in the fact that both the Cannabis for Private Purposes Bill, as well as the Cannabis Master Plan, it is modeled around a philosophy that is not rooted in South African experiences. We do not know who the Department of Justice consulted in order to come forth with this cannabis bill. And we don't know who they consulted in order to develop the Cannabis Master Plan. For all intents and purposes, the master plan is much more closer to being the master's plan for the slaves or the servants. Whereas as South Africans, we
16 minutes.
We are the ones that has to be the masters of our own destiny and the captains of our own faith. And that is only going to come about if the government of South Africa accepts that cannabis is part of the solution and not part of the problem within South Africa. The Cannabis for Private Purposes Bill, as well as the Cannabis Master Plan, these are half-hearted efforts, as if it was done by a group of people who didn't want to do the work in the first place. So despite the fact that since 2018, the government said that the police can only arrest citizens if there is a reasonable suspicion of them dealing. The The police service told us that more than 500,000 people have been arrested since 2018 on so-called dealing charges. Now that is outrageous. We live in a country where if you are sent to jail, your life is in danger because the correctional services system is bursting at the seams. And going to prison, even for one night, is a threat to your life. It is a threat to your health. And we should not be sending people to jail because they plant trees or because they have 10 bags of cannabis in their possession. The reason why equality is the number one or the first right in our constitution is exactly because of our history of apartheid and the ideology of racial supremacy. Why is it that the government of the day is treating alcohol and tobacco much more favorable than they are treating cannabis? We deserve to be treated equally and even better than the alcohol and the tobacco community, because unlike alcohol and tobacco, cannabis does not pose a threat to the lives and the development of South Africans. As a matter of fact, it does the very opposite. It represents the best opportunity for previously disadvantaged South Africans to make a better life for themselves. But yet, we find that we do not have the support of our government. We find that our government is much more eager to satisfy the interests of big business, big pharma, and not supporting small business development or recognizing the integrity and the dignity of the members of the cannabis community. This illegal industry is worth billions in this country, but the fact of the matter is, most of that billions is going to into the pockets of people that's got planes, that's got private properties, corrupt politicians, and gangsters. Whereas that money should be going into the pockets of ordinary, hardworking South Africans and the tax coffers of this country. By working with cannabis, the government has an opportunity to establish a new social compact with its citizens. It is in a position to provide the food, the clothes, and the shelter, the education, the health, and the welfare that this government has promised to its people for the past 27 years, but haven't delivered on those promises. We are saying we want to work with our government and we want to use cannabis as the basis for our industrialization, as the basis for economic revival, as the basis for small business development. But yet it is our government that is standing in the way of that progress by virtue of the fact that they've given us a bill that does not support commercialization. It has given us medical cannabis that is only for the 1% of people within the country. It doesn't speak to the interests of the majority. Whereas we thought that after the Constitutional Court put us in a pioneering position because the judgment rendered by the court was the first in the world, South Africa needs to pioneer. South Africa needs to innovate because of the position that the court put us in. The government is allowed to innovate. The government is allowed to come forth with something that has never been seen before in the world. And instead of following trends or patterns, we can set trends. That is what we are capable of doing. And we have the potential to give to the world a cannabis blueprint that they have never seen, which would simultaneously respect the fundamental human rights of South Africans and allow us to catapult ourselves out of the economic desperation and hopelessness that we currently find ourselves in. Cannabis is a labor-intensive industry, and that's exactly what the millions of unemployed people in this country needs. We need to build houses for people, bricks that we can make from cannabis. We need to ensure that kids, when they go to school, they have a healthy meal to eat. Cannabis seed can contribute towards that. We need to ensure that girls have sanitary pads so that they don't stay out of school, when they have their menstrual cycles. That can be small business development. All of these things, we're talking about providing within the basic needs of people by using ordinary South Africans with their current skill levels and with the help of government in order to ensure that they create a better life for them all. And we've seen that our government does not seem eager to do that. Their actions show rather that they are reluctant to embrace this. The fact that 500,000 people have been arrested since 2018 is disturbing. And it is wasting valuable time, cost, monies, and effort on the part of our government. And it is frustrating the cannabis community. Instead of allowing our people to come into the light, the attitude of the government has driven this community back underground. And we do not want that. We want to work with our government for the betterment of our people. We deserve to be treated with respect and dignity, and our culture need not be undermined anymore. Cannabis has not been decriminalized in this country. Well, for all intents and purposes, the way the government is approaching it, it's only decriminalized because you are only allowed to use it in the privacy of your house. But that implies that people have places to grow. It means that they are in a position to grow. And that assumption is reckless in the context of South Africa. We have millions of people who are backyard dwellers. We have millions of people who stay on the second or the third floor of high-rise buildings. As such, these people cannot grow for themselves. Their government needs to have an outlet where these people would be able to get access to cannabis. As it currently stands, millions of people have to break the law in order to get their cannabis, which in terms of the law, they have a right to use.
Yeah.
Now, instead of going back to court, we would rather sit down with our government. But in the 3 years since the judgment, despite reaching out to the Department of Justice, the police service several times, we have been given the cold shoulder, and we have not had one positive interactive meeting with the Department of Justice or the police service. And they continue to portray the cannabis community as criminals, as drug dealers, as drug peddlers, and as a threat to society. Now, how can we speak about economic development, but on the other hand, you still want to send people to jail? That does not make any sense at all. And we do not want to go back to court. We rather want to sit around the table. In 2002, when the Constitutional Court gave their first judgment, well, rather the second in Prince 2, Justice Albie Sachs reminded the court that whenever the government is tasked with developing new legislation, the community that they would be making that legislation for must be recognized right from the time that you start conceptualizing the new bill. In this particular instance, the Cannabis for Private Purposes bill was handed down to us kind of like as an accomplished feat already. And then we were told, give your comments on this bill. But the very nature of the bill is such that it straitjackets South African citizens, and it straitjackets the master plan, because the master plan does not speak at all towards recreational cannabis and commercial activity around recreational cannabis. The master plan favors hemp and medicinal cannabis, and none of those speak towards the interests of ordinary South Africans. That it creates very little opportunity for small business development, and it simply allows for the capture of the cannabis industry, leaving us with providing raw material for other people to add value to, and then to be sold back to South Africans, and us just being consumers. We do definitely not want a situation like that, and that requires that government must have much more interactive participation with the cannabis community.
Yeah.
They need to interact. I think I'll stop there for now.
I've heard that Mimi has finally entered the room. If she could switch on her camera and please introduce herself to everyone, that will be great. And thank you so
Thanks,
much,
comrade,
Prince, for your introduction. Yeah, that's
very comprehensive. There's lots of issues to think about, to reflect on, a lot of things that we can agree on. But let's have this debate. I think for me, let's not move from the them and us. Let's find ways of seeing each other, because that's where we start. So I'm glad that we can have the dialogue. You've said some really harsh, critical feedback to us as the ANC, and I take it on the chin. But I think more importantly, it's about, so what now? What can we learn? What can we do better? I mean, the president has this thing about do more, do better, and listen and make yourself a servant of the people. So that's what I humble myself here in front of, and my colleague. We are here to listen, to hear, and then also without making commitments, see what we can do. So thanks for that feedback. I have listened very attentively, and I want to listen more, and I want to engage, and I want to ask questions, and I want to, because it's complex. So yes, thanks, Comrade Prince.
Thank you so much. Let me just check, where's Mimi?
Greetings, everyone. I'm here with you.
Hey.
Thank you, Comrade. Welcome.
Greetings. I'm here. I think I will switch off my video because, this time around, we are all busy all over. So I'll just switch my videos. And yeah, I'm here. Greetings and for the opportunity. I think I will wait for the chair. Yes. And apologies again, the network took over. It's load shedding. It's Free State got its own issues. People like any other province anyway.
Greetings, madam.
Yes.
My general secretary. I've just finished my speech, so the floor is yours.
Yeah. Please
Yes,
introduce
thank
yourself.
you.
Tell us everything about you. For us, we don't know that you were general secretary for anybody.
Nobalas of being here. I was once a Nobala, so I respect the Nobala. Nobala, will you please introduce yourself?
Thank you very much. Okay, my name is Mulebohen Semela, also known as Sister Mimi, a Rastafari woman activist, Secretary General of Cannabis Development Council of South Africa, the chairperson of Ganja Council in the Free State, and the also assistant chairperson of the administration of the Adwa movement, the pressure group in Cape Town that has been pushing and lobbying to the maximum, So I'm the kind of entrepreneur. I'm into the cannabis industry. We've been doing all sorts of trading in different aspects of cannabis. I'm producing cannabis cosmetologists, cosmetics, skincare products, and hair care products. I'm also producing edibles. And as a Rastafari woman, I use cannabis as a sacrament, sacred sacrament that we use in everyday uses and purposes for many purposes. Yes. So I'm mother of three children of Rastafari. Yes. I'm a very active young woman in this movement, So we've been pushing and going all over the country so that we make sure that we are not yet marginalized in this industry and in this green economy, So that is my introduction. I see you guys sitting back. So I was just introducing myself. As you said, I must introduce myself. Yeah, that is whole system. I'm based in Free State in Welkom, in the center of the country. Yes, that is where I'm based.
For 5 years.
Yeah, so any additions that Comrade Mimi, Nobala, if you would also want to make, I think, very comprehensive inputs from Comrade Prince that covered the legislative process, the confusion, the policy confusion, any additions that you want us to also hear about, the policy uncertainty about the master plan vis-a-vis the decriminalization. That's why we got the topic. We had two topics. It's decriminalization on the one hand, but also the industrialization. Any additional thoughts from your side?
Okay, thank you very much. And thanks to the brother that has been pushing with the office in that day. We applaud and give thanks for all the progress being done. The issue regarding decriminalization and the industry, like as Ras Gareth was giving different aspects on that, is that our government, it is still ignorant if we need to be straight to the point, we say it's our government, but yet we don't talk one language. How can we still ignore the existing market? I remember the minister, Metoko Didiza, has been emphasizing on making sure that the existing farmers in the cannabis industry, they should be accommodated. I know from a fact from the office that was drafting and driving the master plan of agriculture, land reform and rural development, that Tetabo Ramashala has promised to do intensive consultation with the Rastafari community in particular, amongst the indigenous communities that has been brutalized. Because when you talk about brutality, we don't talk about the YouTube things. We talk about things that impact us and affect us from the grassroots where we are as the Rastafari community in particular in this industry. So when we check the master plan, they still don't accommodate such people that has been in the industry in our way, in our own form. We created our own market as indigenous communities, that we are healing ourselves, and then we are using the herb as a sacrament in the church. You know, our children. The master plan and the cannabis bill issues is that, like I'm saying, our people are ignorant. They don't do consultation with us. So the end of their paperwork will always be rejected by such communities like the Khoisan communities, the Rastafari communities, the traditional healers, you know, the herbalists. Because why? We ignore the fact that we cannot access the personal use without the market, because it's not everyone that is knowledgeable about planting medicinal or planting for recreational or whatsoever the reason that might be. So maybe our government don't see this as important things. They just want to see big pharmacists doing their own thing, and then we're gonna say cannabis is legal in South Africa or it is being discriminated, but we don't talk about the access of the market and how are we gonna be regulating that, because we have our own practices that we have said. We have been in the industry with the background of our culture and our movement and our religious spectacles and backgrounds. So we have our own way of accessing the plant from growing and cultivation. So we are saying, even in this session, I hope that whatever that we are saying is going to be recorded and is going to be presented. We want the office of the president, Sibontate Jacobs. We still want the engagement with the president, because we believe that is the man that is running the show. So whoever that we are talking to and not delivering our message, we still demand the output of this session, that it can link us with the president. And you can sit with the president and say, you want our vote, but we as the Rastafari, we are still being brutalized like this. You know, we still find, like I'm talking about 3 days ago, I got a call from one of my brethren here in Virginia, in the Free State. And he asked me, Sister Mimi, can you tell me that are we still going to be locked and jailed for a spliff of joint, being a Rasta? You know, because you can see a deal and you can see a Rasta, but we still face those things. So the master plan does not address that. The cannabis bill, it's worse. I even said when we were doing the oral presentations that we are not expecting the Department of Justice to be our savior and come and give us the freedom that we want of the plant. Like we say, we're fighting for the total freedom and liberation of the plant, because the plant got the right. You know that when you talk about nature conservation, yes, the environment, the Department of Environment, they can attest to that. So we see our government orchestrating the abuse of the plant and continue to abuse us, you know. So we still want further engagement, and we're not going to be allowing apartheid laws to be existing in this time. When we say this is our government, we're not going to allow that, and we cannot pretend as if we have the freedom because it was announced by the Constitutional Court that we have this right. But still, our own government, they still undermine that ruling. You see. Because at the end of the day, we cannot just randomly say, because we had this meeting and this meeting, the cannabis bill must pass, but we'll just make few webinars and get their inputs, and then you are gone again. No, those time has been long time gone, because our people are still suffering from that. As a Rasta woman, the bill don't give access to my child to get the medicinal ganja or marijuana, you know, because we're indigenous people. I don't need to go to the pharmacy to heal my child with cannabis. I must do it in my indigenous way. So there's many loopholes. There's many loopholes that we cannot sit down and be quiet about it, but we are expecting you as our government to respond to that and make sure that we benefit from that, because we are also part of this citizen of the country. We want to benefit like anyone else, because we have the criminal records. Our people are not employable because of such. So the process of expungement must begin now, so that we walk the talk, you know, so that you don't say something on this hand and say something on the other hand. So we want education of cannabis people need to be educated, because remember, there's a stigma around it. There's a lot of stigma around it, and our people must know that they have the right to information. That is why we're saying we want this information to be in the level of curriculums whereby the kids can get, because now I'm stuck even where we are in the Free State. We are requesting the college to get this curriculum to teach about under food production, to get the cannabis studies, but they beat around the bush. They don't know what to do, you know, but you are there and you say, let's guide you. And they will tell us about policies and laws. Those policies and laws, they're outdated. They must change. And the time to change is now, because everything we talk about it now, it must happen now, because this is a gold rush. Otherwise, you're going to see those CBD products that are still in the shops, that are not regulated, that are not tested by SAPRA, but yet find the same SAPRA oppressing us with over-regulating when we want to apply for the medical cannabis. Same what the Department of Agriculture is doing now. The Department of Agriculture is adopting the models and ways of SAPRA, of which is Western models. Then now they co-opt them to agriculture to say for the industrial hemp, you must have these big fences, you must have this and that, you must have already, they've been channeled now to use the Western models and practices, while we are here and say, this is the crop, this is the plant, before it can be a medicine. Let's all come and talk and sit and develop policies that talks to us, not policies that gonna be against us and oppress us.
Yeah.
Thanks, Comrade Mimi. Again, lots of food for thought. I think there's a lot to digest and to deal with. I think what I want to ask now is Comrade Wilma.
I thought we would first take some questions.
Okay.
Because it's been 30 minutes already. If there is any questions, let us know. Okay, cool. There isn't. So, Wilma, you're welcome to go. Obviously, right. Let's do
Okay,
that.
so Comrade Wilma is also, like me, a fellow member of Parliament. He sits in the Portfolio Committee for Justice, and they've been part of the hearings on the bill. So, Comrade Wilma, I think this is also part of that. As the ANC, we're not afraid of criticism. We listen to our people, and we can say, we can apologize where we've made mistakes. I think part of our campaigns, election campaigns, have been about that. That yes, we've made mistakes. Yes, we've lost the ball. And so I'd like to maybe ask you, Comrade Wilma, if you can just share, not all of us, certainly the majority of us haven't understood the bill, what the process is, where is it, the consultation, maybe explore the aims of the bill, what are the contradictions in the bill. And I think there is already, we've clearly seen the master plan, the draft master plan, what is objectives, how will it achieve commercialization, how do we ensure that that commercialization has the benefit of all, including the RasTafari communities. So Comrade Wilma, over to you. Yeah, let's hand over.
Yeah, let's hand over. I think she is available.
Thank you so much. I am deaf, so I am using a sign language interpreter, and I would like to ask if you could spotlight me because the deaf people who are watching would need to see me more clearly. So yes, thank you, Comrade Faiz. Thank you for this opportunity. And I agree with all the speakers that we do indeed need to. Can the host return, Comrade Wilma?
Comrade Wilma on the screen, and can we mute Comrade? Give us a minute. Then Comrade on the screen. Is someone that's still making noise? Can I ask you to mute?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, then Comrade Sini. Okay.
Like
Okay, Comrade Wilma, go for it.
Okay. Whatever. Everyone there?
Yes, I am Wilma Nieuhodruchen. I am a deaf person using a sign language interpreter. So the voice that you hear is that of the sign language interpreter. And by qualification, I am a social worker. So I am also very interested in topics like this and how the RasTafari community is treated, particularly the children. So secondly, I am a member of parliament with the ANC, and I'm a member of the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development, and this bill is before that Portfolio Committee. I know that some of you are very clued up on the bill, but unfortunately, many other people are not aware of the bill and don't know the details of the bill.
Yeah.
So, like it has been said earlier, in 2018, in September, the Constitutional Court judgment gave a landmark ruling. And that change, it brought a new dimension to the cannabis industry in South Africa. So the Constitutional Court ruled that the use, possession, and cultivation of cannabis in private dwellings is not illegal. And it should be allowed. And then the court gave Parliament 24 months from the date of judgment in order to bring the ruling in line with South African laws, or bring South African laws in line with the ruling. Even though the private use of cannabis has been decriminalized, but the buying and the selling of cannabis, the oils and the seeds, that remains illegal. The host has, can the
host please make this video on? Thank you.
We wanted Comrade Wilma to be spotlighted. Oh, so now it's fine. Okay, continue. My
Okay,
apologies.
great.
Comrade.
Great. So now that we have the cannabis bill for private use, for private purposes, that bill has been tabled in Parliament on the 1st of September 2020. And the bill aims to do the following: to respect the right to privacy of an adult person to possess cannabis, the cannabis plant, cultivation material, under a prescribed quantity of cannabis. To possess a prescribed quantity of cannabis and to consume cannabis. So the bill also aims to regulate the possession of cannabis, of the cannabis plant for cultivation material, and the cultivation of cannabis, the possession of cannabis, and the consumption of cannabis by an adult person. It also provides for the expungement of criminal records of persons convicted of possession of cannabis, to delete and amend provisions of certain laws. And yes, that's the last objective. So in the making of this ruling, the Constitutional Court considered various issues, which included privacy, health concerns, and the status quo in other parts of the world. So although the court gave some broad guidelines in the judgment, the details have been left to Parliament. The details of this have been left to Parliament. So some of the practical challenges that the committee, the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development, the challenges that need to be addressed include defining privacy, And what is it meant by in private? And what is it meant by in a private place? Also, defining the quantity. How much is used or how much can be used? Also has to define acquiring cannabis, but also protecting non-users. The criminal penalties also have to be taken into consideration and to be discussed by the committee. So the committee received 55 written submissions and about 25 oral submissions. And some of you who are present today were also present at the public hearings. After the public hearings, the committee has not had a chance to deliberate the public hearing yet. The committee is still to deliberate the contents of the public hearing. And in the deliberation, well, in July 2019, Cabinet then took a decision to develop, interpreter's mistake, in what has been discussed tonight with the master plan, is that in July 2019, Cabinet took a decision to develop a national strategy in order to commercialize cannabis and in order to increase economic growth, create jobs, and also to alleviate poverty or eradicate poverty. So this led to the development of the draft National Cannabis Master Plan. Yes, in the public hearings, I did ask questions to many of the presenters about whether some of you were involved in the drafting of the master plan, and most of the people presenting said no, they were not consulted. And so we need to be able to discuss the master plan and find out how people were consulted and if they were consulted. However, in the drafting of the master plan, there are different government departments that were included, and that is under the directive of Cabinet. Department of Agriculture, Rural Development and Land Reform, Department of Health, Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, Department of Small Business, and police, well, the South African Police Service. They are all represented in the Interministerial Council, and other representatives or other parties are SAPRA, the Agricultural Research Council, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, the Industrial Development Corporation, SARS, and also some universities are also involved in the drafting of the master plan on cannabis. So the purpose of this master plan is to provide a broad framework for the development and growth of the South African cannabis industry, and in order to contribute to the economic development, job creation, inclusive participation, rural development, and poverty alleviation. There have been major barriers to this process, including the negative public perceptions, legislative restrictions, lack of manufacturing capacity, licensing challenges, confusion regarding hemp permits, and as well as illegal products that are available on the local market. These are issues that were raised in the public hearings and that are known, and these are matters that are brought back to the ANC study group and the portfolio committee for deliberation. In terms of drafting of the bill, many of the participants said that they were not happy with the bill and they recommended amendments to it. When the bill is passed, it will go past the National Assembly. It will go to the National Council of Provinces, where there will be yet another opportunity for public hearings and deliberations. I trust that the cannabis community will be very involved with the deliberations that will happen on that level. You need to be involved in those deliberations. Personally, I don't want big business to be taking over the cannabis industry. I want our local communities to be involved, our indigenous communities to be involved, and they can develop and grow economically. I want the right of the RasTafari children, their right to enter school. Those rights must be respected. Comrade Wilma is just frozen. She's back. I will stop there with my presentation, Comrade Faiz. I would like to hear more from the other participants and also ask some questions. I hope that, Comrade Faiz, I have covered the small part about how, and it's also really about the South African community and the small businesses benefiting from this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Comrade Wilma, for taking us through the process of Parliament. Yes, the bill is delayed. Yes, we had many comments, public engagement. Yes, the portfolio didn't sit to process those bills. Yes, it's very clear that people are unhappy with the content of the bill. Yes, there's need to be reworked, and I think the committee will have to be dealing with the deliberations. My personal view, I mean, I can't speak on behalf of the ANC, but I again share Comrade Wilma's views that you can't have decriminalization and commercialization separately. You have two processes where there's an executive cabinet process, talks about the master plan, where government have spoken, but we really haven't really engaged the beneficiaries. So in the master plan, and I believe still strongly that the master plan must actually be the people's plan for cannabis. In there, we talk about the need to use cannabis for good, for our people, for our industry, to alleviate jobs, to deal with the legacies of slavery, apartheid, and all of those things. But at the same time, you still have a system that decriminalizes. Now, I personally also don't feel that we, after 2-3 years of the Constitutional Court, that it's right and acceptable that more than 500,000 people using cannabis must be criminalized for that. I'm pleased that there is a clause in the current form of the bill that talks about expansion, but I think more needs to be done about that. So we've heard the different views, we've heard strong views, and again, as a member of Parliament, I'm also going through a learning curve.
Yeah.
I'm not on that committee, but clearly I would want to be a champion for this. And I would want to, in my portfolio for small business, we need to actually put in the master plan a set aside. So we say, actually, if we're saying we are committed to empowering our local communities, our rural, our townships, then we need to put a set aside in the master plan that we can't allow multinational companies to just come in and extract our value. We also talk about the whole value chain. So from growing to healing, there must be a value chain. So we can't just sell our raw material and then private farmer sells it, makes cookies or oil or all of those things. We must beneficiate. So I think there must be written in the master plan. And I think that is already there. But how, what we say in policy and what the implementation is, I'm hearing now from the community directly, from the Rasta community directly. One, they feel still feel criminalized, and two, that their products and the way of life is not being affirmed through this process.
And the culture.
And the culture. So look, I come humble, and I come also very clear that there's a lot of questions, a lot of input. So let's check if there's any inputs, additional ones or
Yeah.
comments.
I would actually want to hear what Prince or Comrade Mimi has to say about them hearing the input of Wilma. If they are still online, I'd love to hear them. Are they still online?
Yeah, we hear Aisha and leadership.
Oh, guys.
Are we clear?
Yes,
Can we be
indeed we
heard?
are.
Yes, we are all here.
Okay.
Can
I'm
I-
not hearing input. I know that the chats
Okay,
are going
leaders,
fast, but I'd love to
I
hear
would say,
any strong input on that side.
can I
Excellent.
just say something? Leaders, I want to mention that leaders, our society is going into turmoil more and more. And I don't know why the committee is not sitting, because that's a reflection on incompetence. It's a reflection on not competent state capacity, because we need a state that has the capacity to move with the times. And this is unfortunately affecting us on the grassroots, because we are still being abused and brutalized by the law enforcement agencies of this country. So the fact that our parliament and the leadership that was elected to lead the society is not pulling up their socks, it's affecting us negatively. And we want this regime and the leadership to have successes and to maintain stability, because we don't want to go into a total failed state or a total unstable state. That being said, with the issue with the master plan, and I hear these study groups and things, and this committee might change come 2024, because there's going to be new MPs. Some MPs are not going to make it. Seats are going to be lost. Some seats are going to be gained. It depends on the balance of power come 2024. And we're not even going to have the same deputy ministers and ministers. We don't know what's going to happen, my leadership. So we are clear. Our principles are going to remain the same as indigenous cannabis users, as users of indigenous knowledge systems in which cannabis is justified. We can go into indigenous names of cannabis, because no one brought cannabis to our soil. Cannabis was here, Kanaland Vazi, Cannabis Vazi. So that being said, the issue with the study groups at parliament and the issues with universities being consulted, we are maintaining that Leader Prince has for the past 20 years forged his expertise on international cannabis rights, local cannabis rights, and he knows what form of patent intellectual property we as a society need to produce, so that the world can look at South Africa, this rainbow nation, to say, okay, these people have actually the best practice in terms of how to decriminalize and ensure cannabis industrialization uplifts the poor. Because we already have the middle class and the super rich that were anti-ganja. Now they want to come with a startup capital and they want to come here. But we were dagakopper, we were drug addicts. We never had the capacity. We couldn't be submitted to the bar. All of these things. Now we find that everyone is saying, okay, we're going to make profit off of this. My simple request to the leadership is these study groups and these universities that are being consulted, why is someone like Prince that has forged with the constitutional courts too many documents over the years? There's precedents being set in terms of the legal fraternity by Comrade Leader Prince. So why is this master plan listening to all these little stakeholders and little lobby groups that popped up the other day and ignoring the people, the veterans of the struggle? Why are they ignoring the vets of the cannabis struggle? And we have the documents to prove that we have been forging this lobby. We've been forging this dialogue to this point where we can now engage with the leadership in a private space, in a Rastafari community, Rastafari nation, speaking with members and ANC officials and members of the committees. Because in 2 years, there might be other members on the committee. We might speak to another, and that's not what we want. Leadership, we want progress, we want economic redistribution, we want radical economic transformation, and we want jobs from the cannabis industry, leadership. Because the other capitalists are already having businesses, and they're already making money from other resources. So they must leave cannabis to the poorest of the poor so that we can educate our children and so that we can develop our productive forces as people that were previously disadvantaged. Because we have the capacities, we have the IQs, we are just poor and uneducated and still mentally colonized in the ghetto, in the poor communities. And cannabis and the benefits of cannabis and the resources from cannabis through our leadership and through community development practitioners and through NGOs, like we mentioned, cannabis reparations. That's tax that must go to specific Rastafari NGOs. It must go to specific Rastafari civil society institutions so that they can put those resources back into our community, back into our movement. Because here we have children that were left school because of how they were brutalized by the society and by this government. We left school. We have criminal records. We are denied opportunities because of this government. Thank you, leadership. I think I'm done.
Much. Thank you so much. I love your passion and your fire. We'll never forget about it. And we're actually getting some questions in here now. The first question we got, and I'm not sure it's directed at, the stuff about big corporations, big corporate businesses, farmers is being mentioned. Yet it's happening where there's big companies exporting. So this is from Smoke 420. I wonder if there's anybody in the panel that would like to answer that question. It's a bit complicated, but we'll try. Go ahead, Comrade Ras. We can't hear you. Are you talking?
Are you talking to me?
You have an answer to that question, we'd love to hear it.
I'm not so sure as to whether I followed what the actual question was. Could you just repeat that?
I'll read it again. We're getting quite a few. So the question was, and it's from Smoke 420, there's stuff about big corporate business / farms is being mentioned, yet it's happening where there's big companies exporting. What do you think about this? Or can you answer on it?
That must be referring to medical cannabis license holders.
Okay.
So in terms of the law, and that was passed into law on the day before we had the Constitutional Court challenge, the 6th of November 2017. A law was passed whereby SAPRA set out the regulations that must be followed in order for people to produce medical cannabis. And in places like Stellenbosch, the Northwest, and some other places in the country, some of these license holders have cultivated cannabis according to the standard required by SAPRA. And some of these companies have exported their product. And that was one of the concerns mentioned by the cannabis community, in that how come it is again that big money people, white people in specific, are the ones that are getting the opportunities to do these things, whereas they were the major down pressers of the cannabis community in the past. And now that the doors of freedom are open, they want to be the first ones to start getting the benefit of this product. And that is fundamentally unfair. One thing that I wanted to pose to the ANC and to the honorable member on the portfolio committee is that equality means that you cannot treat the cannabis community or hold the cannabis community to higher standards than what you hold the alcohol or the tobacco community. And so it is a complete insult to indigenous South Africans to see foreigners sitting at street-side cafes in Cape Town, drinking beers and smoking tobacco on the street side, there where I'm walking past. But if I were to attempt to do that with my cannabis spliff, I land up in jail. Now, the facts is undisputable that alcohol and tobacco does far greater harm to society. It costs our society billions of rand a year, yet they are not as strictly regulated as cannabis. There's no laws that says that you can't have more than 10 packs of cigarettes in your house. There's no laws preventing you from having a cellar where you can have 200 bottles of brandy or whiskey at your house, and the law says nothing about that. So the cannabis community cannot be held bound to these standards because they're so-called safety concerns. That is hypocritical to the max, because the reality is that alcohol and tobacco kills 10 million people a year worldwide. But there's not one country that would propose, not one Western country that would propose to make alcohol or tobacco illegal, because that's political suicide. So you have to tolerate the fact that these substances are part of our reality. And it is fundamentally unfair if billions of rands can be made by the Oppenheimers or the Ruperts by selling alcohol and tobacco, but a small-scale farmer is sent to jail because he plants 100 plants in his backyard.
Okay.
The government cannot send poor South Africans to jail and allow the rich to flourish and to grow cannabis in their 5-10 million rand establishments. That is not what we fought for. And that is what the cannabis community will continue to oppose. As a social worker, I respect Comrade Wilmer in raising the concerns around kids. But fact of the matter is that kids have far, far greater access to alcohol and tobacco than they do to cannabis. And what we need to do is to stop demonizing the plant so that we could have some proper knowledge and some proper education in our educational system being taught to our youths. We need to destigmatize the plant and change the conversation away from intoxication and recreation towards job creation.
Comrade Wilma, do you have any input on what our Mr. Prince has said? Comrade Prince.
Yes, well, everything that has been said today, I will obviously bring to the committee. The linked to the commercialization and business, small business, you know, the training institute. One thing that I didn't mention, but this issue has been brought to NETLAG, and it's also being discussed there. But NETLAG cannot proceed until they hear from various experts. So now what I want to ask is that, you know, does the Rastafarian community speak to, have they spoken to anyone in NETLAG? They need to be part of it as well. Yeah, so I just want to say that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. So we have two people that want to come up and ask a question. The first one is Patrick. I'm not sure who he wants to direct this question at, but Patrick, please switch on your camera and kindly introduce yourself, and then proceed with the question.
Hi, my question was originally for Faiz, but I think this applies to generally people who are on the committee or in government. Is that I also wrote it in the comment section. There is, I mean, how would it be possible? Okay, I'm just going to read it here. How does the current government think it will be possible to develop the capacity in South Africa to integrate into higher value-adding parts of the value chain for marijuana, for example, when this is clearly not happening in other industries? I mean, the marijuana industry doesn't exist in a vacuum. You can't have an industrial policy for marijuana outside of industrial policy for other parts of for other sectors. So I think it would be useful to elaborate on this. Then another question I had is that, you know, in South Africa, we have quite a sophisticated infrastructure in terms of getting the produce, producing the produce and getting it to the customer. Now, currently that's an illegal or black market infrastructure, but it would make a lot of sense if that is actually integrated into a legalized structure. And is there any discussions about doing that? Because I think that's where these big businesses have the advantage, that a framework is set up which suits them. But if you want to do this in a way that ensures that local communities are beneficiaries, that you actually use this existing infrastructure, whether it is illegal now or not, and integrate that into legal infrastructure. Okay. Thank you. That wasn't just directed at Faiz. It was directed at everybody. Didn't mean to. Yeah.
Well,
Hi, Faiz.
I'll be trying to answer as much as you can. Because it sounds like you're very clued up.
Thanks, Comrade Patrick, and very important points. Comrade, I think there's a lot of synergies here, but I think we must also talk about the history and the legacies of the unequal economic society that we have. We know that cannabis was made illegal and tobacco and the alcohol industry was made to flourish, not only our country, but internationally. I think, yes, the ANC must take some of the blame for moving slow, but I think there is a willingness. I think there is a realization that we must use the plant, the people's plant, to empower, to liberate ourselves and also our economy. The value chain that you talk about, Patrick, is in South Africa, we still have great inequalities in our economy. We still have multinational companies dominating, and we don't have an economy that's inclusive and sharing and caring. And I think that's some of the legacies and the challenges that the ANC must confront. We must confront it head on, and it's something that we are preoccupied with. Let me just use one example. In the food security in the Western Cape, from the seed to when a product gets to your table, that whole value chain, from seed, from growing, from harvesting, from transporting it, from packaging, from retail, that whole value chain, say for example, Apple, in the Western Cape in particular, it's predominantly still white owned. Yes, there's laborers, black and coloreds in the system, but the whole value chain for agro-processing is still predominantly white owned. So when we talk about beneficiation in the cannabis industry, we want to ensure that existing small businesses are protected, are enhanced, are benefited. And so I hear you that there is informal, just like there's an informal trading sector, there is the informal economy in the cannabis industry. And it does make sense when we decriminalize that we use Comrade Mimi, for example, who is a budding entrepreneur, that's a survivalist, that's an auntie that can grow her stuff, that cooks, and how do we ensure that we help them? How do we ensure that we formalize? How do we ensure that we get the quality? How do we ensure that we don't only be consumers of product, but actually be producers of product? And I think that's a key thing.
And I think what really resonated with this question is because me personally, I love making edibles, and as a non-white person, I'm kind of fearful to even try and make it a small business, make it bigger than that, and go further than that. And also, there is that fear every single day that just because I'm allowed to have that type of product in my home, inside my food, at any time, you can still be in trouble. And coming back to the point, when will it stop being a criminal offense to even have just a little bit of fun? I experienced a lot of friends getting locked up over that type of little thing. But I think Wilma will be able to talk more on that.
Aisha, there was the other hand from Ras.
Sorry, yes, Comrade Aisha. One of the challenges that the committee will face is the numbers. You know, how much, what is the quantity? You know, we haven't even deliberated and discussed that. We haven't come together to ask the departments, where did you come up with these numbers in the first place? You know, how much can I carry? How much can I grow? How much can I keep at home? All of those things, the numbers of adults in my house, does that add up? You know, all of those nitty-gritty things is the things that the committee hasn't even discussed. You know, where did the departments come up with that? Now, my concern is also, so yes, if it's okay to have cannabis on me, but I'm driving to drop it at my parents' house, for example, and then I'm caught halfway, do I get arrested then? You know, all of those little things that the committee hasn't brainstormed about. You know, we haven't thought about that. We haven't discussed it. We haven't even had a chance to ask the departments how they came up with these penalties and all of the things that they regulate. So these, you know, we need an opportunity to talk about this private use bill for that matter. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So we no, we're on this. So our next question, his name is C4, Ras C4. I think that he wants to be live. So Ras C4, you're welcome to switch on your mic and switch on your camera. Yeah, introduce yourself and go ahead. Please, please direct the question at a specific person on the panel. It's kind of difficult for me to guess who the answer should go to.
Mafrika, thank you very much. Molweni, greetings, Jambo, RasTafari. I think my question is not a question, but it's a challenge to the liberation movements in Azania, in Africa, that the ANC has lost its direction from 1994. Today you are having this engagement, but I don't know you are aware that it's Africa Human Rights Day today, and the Rastafari rights and the cannabis rights become center. It has taken Parliament more than 24 months to can engage on this bill after the judgment. And I want to praise this member of Parliament who's here, Wilma. He was the only ANC member of Parliament in that public hearings who was active for more than 3 days. And it is a shame to the ruling party and to the governing party. The second aspect, if you remember Peter Tosh, he said legalize it and I will advertise it. When we talk of commercialization, in 2019 or 18, Prince will remember at UNISA, our first Dacha Indaba, we looked at the colonial laws around cannabis and Dacha. And we look at the question of commercialization. Who will benefit? Who are the capitalists? Who are the captures? So I will have to say the decriminalization should have been priority number one of the ANC when they came back from exile. The liberation movements were assisted by the reggae and Rastafarian movements.
Yes.
But today, we find that the debate that is going on, the master plan drafters, those are flawed documents, to be honest. I'm not talking from Google. I'm talking from reading documents, engaging. And when I say they are flawed, both the master plan and the bill, they were written out of anger. And that's where the knowledge of liberation movements, the policymakers, they should have consulted communities of practice. The Rastafarians, the healers, the Khoi and the San. And we are not against the business community. We must be very clear. Commercialization should not be found to be say we are against the business community unless they play ethically, unless they are playing within our laws. And if we look at the African practice, Eswatini is banning today, but that is a country that's got a lot of cannabis that will have benefited us in this region. Namibia, Zimbabwe, they are moving, Rwanda, they are moving, but their laws are still colonial laws. And when I look at South African laws on cannabis, they are still colonial construct. They are still drafted from a Westminster system parliament. And maybe if I need to round up, even the parliament itself, it's a Westminster system that the ANC could have thought twice, that we remove the parliament in Western Cape and it comes to Tshwane, so that we can understand that that settler regime parliament of Cape Town, it has held us back even on our green economy. Marijuana is a green economy. The presidency is sitting with that document. And the presidency need to wake up and smell, not the coffee, but smell marijuana now. To say, we need to move on the direction of socio-economic, cultural development of our community. Hence I said, when we remember Africa Human Rights Day, let us think of the right to trade, the right to culture, the right to dignity, the harassment and the raids and the brutalization of Rastafarians for almost 27 years under the governance of the ANC. It is like a reminder of the apartheid system. Why is the ANC not aware that police are still harassing Rastafarians? And that's where we are going to find the crossroads. We are going not to find each other all the time when we are engaging government, because even the members of parliament, they are arrogant. They are arrogant. They are so boastful. They speak English the whole day. So that's how we need to think deeper. How do we connect with our people? Thank you, Comrade Jacobs, for being the first member of the ANC and the member of parliament engaging on this debate, which people are afraid of.
Thank you. Thank you, Amandla. I have another question from the Delft Chamber of Business. They never gave me their name. You're welcome to switch on your camera and please let me know who you're directing the question at. And I'm actually impressed at how lively this is going. We have some questions on the socials as well. So yeah, we are here to listen. You may start.
Let me just unmute.
This is for the Delft. Yeah, you just need to talk a little louder, please.
Thank you. I'm very impressed with the platform. My name is Rashad, and I'm from the Delft Chamber of Business. It is not here by me where the sound is. I really agree that the cannabis industry is a gold rush where everyone would like to engage in. But we must be clear of our standpoint in the industry. Like we strive to capture in the commercial side with our informative institutions like the UCT, UWC, and also the University of Stellenbosch in regards to the communization of the plant. You know, the only engagement of the South African government is to regulate the criminal act of the cannabis industry, which is of very much of concern. As one, you can see like in the highlights in the media, you always see how people is harassed, apprehended by laws that is only there for the criminalization of the act and not the commercialization side. So our people have been apprehended and stuff like that. So this places tremendous pressure on the industry, and there is not clear directions to the frustration of the beneficiaries, which is sitting around this table now. Currently, the commerce with cannabis. I suggest to move forward, we need a holistic approach towards government, as they have been captured within their structures, while SAPRA is given licenses to those directed by the Minister of Health and their counterparts in government. So we need the lawful rights to the commercial side, whether it is the plant or whatever ingredients the plant can bring together. I thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Comrade. Yeah, Rashad. I don't think we have any more questions. Actually, we have a lot, but I don't think we have all night, and we definitely enjoyed listening to everybody. I'd love to get a closing statement from Prince, and then following that, we'll have from Comrade Wilma. And then, of course, Comrade Mimi, I haven't heard a word from her all this time. And then, of course, Faiz can do a closing. Are you okay with that? And yes, thank you, everybody that participated in and took the time out to join us. It's been such an experience. Okay? Prince, you may go.
Thank you very much. And it is activities like these that really demonstrate what participatory democracy is about. We need to sit with our government in a spirit of Ubuntu, and in a spirit of recognizing the dignity of all people and respecting the equality of all citizens. Apartheid was this philosophy that sought to tell us that one group of people are worth more than others. That is not the case. We know that is immoral in principle. It's unworkable in practice. We can use cannabis in order to demonstrate that people must be put before profits. Justice must be put before laws. And it is very important that we understand that the laws of the land serve the people, and not that people must serve laws, which is currently the case around the Cannabis for Private Purposes bill, as well as the master plan that the government have proposed to us. We are saying there can't be anything for us without us. And both the bill and the master plan were drafted and developed without the proper input of the community who it is affecting the most. So we are saying we still have time. The ANC, as I've said, they are our government for better or for worse. We want to work with them, and we are tired of the lip service. We want to see action more than promises. Because the plant, let us all learn from the cannabis plant. There is no other species on the face of the earth that has a greater capacity for service than this beautiful cannabis plant. And if its people work with her, we can create miracles. We can demonstrate what it means to lift ourselves out of poverty and to grow ourselves into prosperity. Let the plant lead us. Let us humble ourselves and allow ourselves to be led by the wisdom and the capacity of this plant. And let us serve, as the government, let us serve the people of South Africa. Us with education and insight, let us demonstrate that we can work for the people of South Africa and demonstrate why cannabis is the tree of life and the savior of the South African community and society. Amandla.
Away too. Comrade Mimi, are you there? Thank you so much, Brent.
Yes, I'm here, my sister, and thank you again for the opportunity. From my side, I've been listening, and the deliberations have been carrying a value, even from your side, like Rasgareth is saying. We hope it's not just lip service, because we as the Rastafari people, we are one community that will force people to account. My plea is simple. We want to meet with the president. Tell the president if he wants our vote, let him consult with us. We can have this webinar with him. It can be an hour just before elections to show that he's caring, because I know our government is a caring government. We've been making emails flying in and out of the different offices from the presidency's office. We have records from March already. We've been putting pressure and there's no response to get the appointment with the president. We are just sending you now to say, tell the president if he wants to really show that he's caring, let him meet with us within this period of voting. And then we can be convinced that we'll see the change that we want, because the ministers have said this, the master plan drivers have said that, the cannabis bill portfolio committee has said something, and I'm very disappointed to the portfolio from the portfolio committee not to communicate back to us and inform us that we have never gotten a chance to give us your recommendations or the response to our presentations, because they promised us at the end of the session that on the 23rd September it will be a turnaround time, but nothing was from them, So we want people to account, and we want to show that we are responsible citizens of the country. That is why we'll never give up, and we'll keep on pushing and say nothing for us without us. And then the struggle continue till we see the equality and justice towards this green economy that everybody is coming to claim. While we've been there, we are still here, and we'll forever be here for the love and the protection of the plant. So thank you again for your time. We hope to see some action and progress, so that it's not just one of these kind of sessions. We are tired of this, for real. We are really tired, and we're going to hold you accountable, because we are here representing thousands of the communities out there, and they are always looking for opportunity to say that we've been consulted. That is the basic right, so that we can be part of these processes. But that has never happened. But thank you again for this opportunity, and the people that organize this. I salute you. Give thanks. Blessed love.
Comrade Boma?
Sorry, sister. Aisha, I just want to start by Sister Mimi. We've been dropping the memorandum at Parliament for the past 5-6 years. Annually, we march on the 1st of March. We consult all our formations, we consult all of the leadership, and we will be doing it next year again. And we trust that Comrade Leadership Faiz will be on the ground with us to support this movement. We will even give him a platform, inshallah, at the rally, so that he can address this issue, and so that President Ramaphosa can see that he's engaging with us directly. And like Empress Mimi says, she's lobbying her vote, the community's vote at large, if there's progressive movements to develop us, because we are the most oppressed. The Rasta woman is the most oppressed. She's black, she's Rasta, so she's the most oppressed being in the society. We can go into identity politics, but if we really go into identity politics, the Rasta community is the most oppressed. He's denied because of his identity and his faith, and it's a struggle leadership because we deal with conservative elements in all interfaces of our society. Thank you very much. See the leadership next year with the march. Mantra.
Away to. Second last, our comrade from the legal committee to speak next. Closing remarks, please.
Comrade Boma?
Thank you. Thank you so much to all the presenters for all their inputs. Personally, I would like to say that I will take the information back to my portfolio committee, and me and Comrade Faiz, he will also do the same, the both of us. I would just like to apologize on behalf of our portfolio committee. I don't know about the 23rd of September, that particular date. However, just after the public hearings, our committee had to focus on completing 3 gender-based violence bills. And I'm sure all of you will then understand that the gender-based violence bills had to be passed because they came back from the NCOP. And when that was gotten out of the way, then I hope that we can then continue to focus on the cannabis bill. I will take the comments back to the portfolio committee, and I would like to thank all of you for your inputs and your presentations. Comrade Faiz, he will take it forward in his portfolio committee as well. Thank you.
Amandla.
Thank you, Comrade Wilma, and to our sign interpreters. I really appreciate that. Comrades, just from my side, today was very important for me because for a long time I've been speaking, checking what's happening. So at least today we got a sense of the issues. As a public representative for Greater Athlone, when I spoke to Comrade Hein about a week ago, I said, look, let's engage, let's talk, let's confront the issues. As a servant, I will be here, and even if we get uncomfortable, critical feedback as the African National Congress, we want to rebuild that relationship with our communities. Yes, we've done many mistakes, and yes, we owe an apology to the Rasta community. We haven't been there because the Rasta community has always been there. It was at the forefront of our liberation. It was the space where I, as a youngster, grew up on the Cape Flats. And it was the home and haven for us as student activists, youth activists, progressive forces. So I am very emotionally connected to the Rasta community. But I think there's lots of work to be done. I'm learning through the process. We are all learning through the process. We can do more and we can do better. I rushed, I left the president. The president is just around the corner here in Rylands. And I rushed to make the commitment that we made today to be in the dialogue around decriminalization and industrialization, because that's also important to us. It's a neglected, often neglected community, but very important. Yes, the ANC's got many issues. Yes, the ANC got many challenges, but this ANC is your home. It's your family. And what we're saying, we want to make the circle bigger. Yes, we want to get the feedback, but we also want to get a collective sense of ownership. The ANC must fall in love with its people again. People must fall in love with the ANC, and we want to build that contract. It's not just about voting. We want, like Comrade Prince said, participatory governance. We want people's power. We want organs of people's power. And we're not yet there. And the struggle continues. And there are people in the ANC that will struggle in the ANC, but also broader outside to ensure that we take the struggle forward. It's not going to be easy because we say so, Comrade. And I hear Comrade Hyde is very militant and he pushes us, which I love. I can see myself in Comrade Hyde when I was young. And I want comrades to keep us accountable. And so the dialogue continues. I want to appreciate and give thanks also to you, all of you that have tuned in, that will participate, that will hold accountable. And yes, Comrade Hyde, I will join you in the March, in March next year. And I will participate because this sector is also part of our constituency. We will walk this journey with you. Yes, we will also put our voices in the African National Congress. We will also lobby in the African National Congress to make changes that don't only lobby for the alcohol and the tobacco industry, but ensure that genuine and real empowerment happens for our communities in the cannabis space. So I'm also learning. I don't have all the answers. I'm also not going to make the promises, but I want to thank everybody. And yes, let the struggle continue. Let's stay in touch and let's hold us collectively accountable. So with that, I want to thank everybody. I will definitely pass on the message to the president. And I want to see, his program is quite tight. He just left our province and he's on the campaign trail. Comrade Sismini, you just missed him in welcome. I think he came from Free State to us here, and I think he's off back to the north provinces again. We've got a few days left as the African National Congress. We're putting a lot of candidates out, and all of them have been vetted, and all of them are going to be servant leaders, and we want to start that people's contract. It starts with us. So let me pause.
Yes.
Thank you, Aisha.
Thank you so much. Mimi, did you want to say something? Because I saw your mic went on.
Yes. Yes.
I'm glad that you said I will actually ask, because I was worried he wasn't going to make that promise, but everybody heard now. He's best friends with the president, guys.
Okay. We trust you. If we had this session in this busiest time of our country, I believe that webinar can be organized. I trust you, leadership. Leaders, we are here. Show some love more. Let's act love. You have showed us love today. Let's continue and act love now. Let's deliver. Tell the president you'll be part of the campaign. Tell him he must take it as a part of the campaign. He must campaign. Rastas must vote.
Yes. Rastas must vote.
Thank you,
Amanda, thank you so much. I hope that we can maybe do this soon.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Rasains, for making this possible, communicating with your leaders, with Prince, with Mimi. Thank you, Pais, for bringing Wilma on so quickly, so in such a short time. Thank you for all the people that joined the live, that took the time out to switch on their cameras and ask us questions. We really, really appreciate it. And once again, I hope that this happens soon, not next week, maybe in 2 weeks' time. So keep an eye out on all our socials, social media. So lastly, I really want to thank Rasta brother Craig for allowing us to set up studio in his venue here in North Street. He has a new studio called Revolution Music and Media. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Thank you guys so much. Good evening, good night.
Thank you. Comrade Faiz, ask President Ramaphosa to get a memorandum from us next year. Maybe towards 2024, it will be impressing the community at large. Much love.
Thanks, Comrade.
Thank you so much, everybody. Bye.
Greetings.